"You don't fit in at our country club," she called out, loud enough to wake the whole block. "And I'm making sure everyone knows it." My blood boiled, but I kept my cool. "Deborah, those are mine. You took them from my car. That's theft, and I'm calling the cops." She let out a laugh, so sharp it could have cut glass, echoing down our picture-perfect suburban street. Curtains twitched, and a few neighbors poked their heads out, drawn to the drama. Mrs. Larson next door was already filming with her phone, her eyes wide. "Call them," Deborah sneered, clutching my clubs tighter. "I'm HOA president. I'm protecting our property values. No one's backing you up." Oh, she had no idea the fight she'd just picked. I'd only been in Crestwood Estates for 6 weeks, thrilled to finally own a home in one of the city's ritziest neighborhoods. At 32, after years of med school, residency, and fellowship, I was ready to settle down as a cardiologist. Crestwood had it all: top schools, scenic trails, and best of all, Stonegate Country Club, a golfer's paradise just 5 minutes away. I'd picked up golf in med school to network, but it became my escape, my passion. When I learned my new home was near one of the state's best courses, I applied for membership the day I signed the deed. Dr. Robert Langley, a retired surgeon I'd worked with, sponsored me personally. But from the moment my MOVY Inc. truck rolled in, Deborah made it clear I wasn't welcome. While neighbors dropped off cookies and warm hellos, Deborah showed up with a thick binder of HOA rules, thrusting it into my hands. "We have high standards here," she'd said, eyeing my boxes like they were trash. I nodded politely, but I'd already consulted a lawyer to ensure I knew the rules inside out. Her jabs started small. When I carried in groceries, she'd quip, "Oh, you shop at Trader Joe's?" Most of us prefer the boutique market on Elm. It's more exclusive. When I planted roses, she sniffed, "Those aren't on our approved list. You might want to rethink that." When I hosted colleagues for dinner, she emailed about quiet hours after 8 p.m. But things got real when she spotted me in a Stonegate Country Club polo while grabbing my mail. Her silver Lexus screeched to a stop. "Where'd you get that shirt?" she demanded, her face red with fury. "Member welcome package," I said calmly. "I joined last month." Her eyes narrowed. "Impossible. There's a 3-year wait list unless you know the right people." I shrugged. "Dr. Langley sponsored me." Her lips thinned. "Robert Langley. Well, he's got his pet projects. But flaunting that shirt around here? A bit bold, don't you think?" After that, the HOA violations piled up. My golf bag, VY Seibel through my car window for 10 minutes, was unauthorized sports equipment. Parking in my driveway instead of the garage, improper vehicle storage. A single leaf on my lawn, landscaping maintenance required. I handled each complaint meticulously, keeping records, but Deborah was relentless. Neighbors whispered she was digging into my job, my background, even my club membership. "Watch out," Mrs. Larson warned. "Deborah ran the last family who crossed her out of here in 6 months. She's ruled the HOA for 15 years and thinks she owns Crestwood." It all exploded that Sunday morning. I had an early tea time with colleagues and loaded my clubs into my trunk before realizing I'd forgotten my lucky cap. I dashed inside for maybe 2 minutes, long enough for Deborah to strike. My security footage later showed her lurking behind her curtains, waiting. The second I stepped indoors, she marched over in her designer tracksuit, glanced around, and popped my trunk like she owned it, yanking out my clubs. By the time I ran back out, she was dragging them across her lawn. I sprinted toward her, heart racing. "Deborah, what the hell are you doing?" She spun around, unfazed. That's when she threw down her gauntlet, daring me to call the police. So I did. I stepped inside, dialed 911, and explained the situation, my voice steady despite the adrenaline. I downloaded the footage to my phone and waited on my porch. Deborah stayed put, my clubs propped against her railing like a prize. She was on her phone, probably rallying her HOA cronies. A crowd of neighbors gathered, shifting uncomfortably as the tension thickened. When the police cruiser rolled up 20 minutes later, Deborah's scowl melted into a syrupy smile. "Officers, I'm Deborah Mitchell, Crestwood Estates HOA president," she cooed. "So glad you're here. We got a problem with this resident. We got a call about stolen property." The female officer cut in, checking her notepad. "Are those golf clubs yours?" Deborah straightened. "Well, no, but I confiscated them under HOA rules. This residence been violating standards, and the clubs were improperly stored, lowering our property values. I stepped forward, phone ready. Officers, I have video of Ms. Mitchell opening my trunk without permission and taking my property. The car was in my driveway, and the clubs weren't civil until she broke in. The male officer watched the footage, his brow furrowing. Deborah's face twitched as the officers exchanged looks. Ms. Mitchell, did you open this man's vehicle without permission? He asked. I was conducting an HOA inspection, she snapped. As president, I have rights. No, ma'am, you don't, the female officer said sharply. HOAs can't enter private vehicles or take property. That's breaking and entering. That's theft. Deborah's jaw dropped, then snapped shut. He doesn't belong here, she exploded, pointing at me. He's not country club material. Ask anyone. The neighbors went silent, staring at their feet. The male officer's voice was firm. Ma'am, return the property now. His partner added, and then we'll discuss the charges. Deborah's face drained of color. Charges? This is outrageous. Do you know who I am? Yes, ma'am, the female officer said dryly. You've made that clear. Now return the clubs. Deborah froze, eyes darting like a cornered animal. Ms. Mitchell, the male officer warned, if you don't comply, we'll arrest you and retrieve them ourselves. Her composure shattered. This is absurd, she shrieked. I was protecting our standards. He doesn't look like he belongs at Stonegate. The street went dead quiet. Even Deborah seemed to realize she'd crossed a line, exposing her real motives. The female officer pulled out handcuffs. Deborah Mitchell, you're under arrest for theft and breaking and entering. As the cuffs clicked on, the neighborhood watched, stunned, as Deborah ranted about community values all the way to the cruiser. One officer handed me my clubs while the other loaded Deborah into the back seat, her furious face glaring through the window as they drove off. Mrs. Larson sidled up, her voice low. 15 years I've waited to see her get what's coming. The HOA meeting's going to be wild. And it was. An emergency session was called, and Deborah's actions were condemned unanimously. She was suspended from the board, pending a vote to boot her for good. The HOA sent me a formal apology, clarifying that my club membership was none of their business. 2 weeks later, I got word Deborah had been charged with theft, breaking and entering, and trespassing. With my footage and witness statements, she faced up to 2 years in jail and due $5,000 in fines. Her lawyer swung a plea deal, probation, a $2,500 fine, and community care VYC. But the real kicker came at Stonegate. Playing around with Dr. Langley and the club president, I learned Deborah's membership was a sham. Between us, the president said on the 9th hole, she lost full membership in her divorce 5 years ago. She's only had dining PRIVY legies, but played it up to keep her status. The next Sunday, I was teeing off with the president when Deborah pulled into the lot, shopping bags in hand. When she saw me, her face collapsed, bags hitting the pavement. I just smiled and took my swing. Who didn't belong now? So what do you think? Was Deborah just a control freak protecting her turf? Or did her actions cross into something darker, prejudice, entitlement, or both? Should I have pressed harder for jail time? Or was her public humiliation enough? And what about the neighbors who stayed silent cowards or just stuck under a thumb? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more wild stories. Let's get this debate going.